We do have everyone present. So that's the first step.
I don't see Shelley. Is she online?
She is online, yep.
Can anybody see her?
Yeah.
Yep,
How
we can
come
see
I
Shelley.
can't?
If you go to gallery view on your Zoom, you'll be able to see everybody.
Well, I can see everybody except her. I am not a pro at this. I don't see gallery view. I mean, I can see everybody except for Shelley. And I don't know where gallery view is.
They can't see me at the podium.
No.
That's all right. I'll be the unknown. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. We'll call a meeting to order. This is the April 21, 2020 Board of Supervisors. As is the tradition in St. Croix County, the Corporation Council runs the meeting until there's an election of a chair, in which time the chair takes over. I'd like a brief moment of silence, if you would stand. People at home don't need to stand. Thank you. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, Cindy, can you do roll call?
They'll be able to hear you. We're not going to pick you up well on the TV broadcast without a microphone.
Ed Schachter.
Present.
Sean Anderson.
Present.
Bob Long.
Present.
Kathy Lee.
Here.
Eric Cook. Here. Kim Hall.
Present.
Paul Burning.
Present.
Rick Otino.
Present.
Bob Fiedler.
Present.
Dave Osnes. Scott Hunter.
Present.
Dan Hansen.
Present.
Scotty Ard. Present. Greg Telejohn.
Present.
Dave Peterson.
Here.
Paulette Anderson.
Here.
Judy Achterhoff.
Remotely present.
Shelley Tomczyk.
Present.
Bill Dees.
Present.
All present.
All right. And now we'll have the oath of office to be done by presiding judge Scott Needham.
And just remain seated for a moment. First, good morning to those of you in person as well as those of you appearing remotely. As we say upstairs, our new normal for doing business, both in the courts as well as in government in general. On behalf of all my colleagues, Judge Black, Judge Norstrand, and Judge Waterman, congratulations on your election to the County Board of Supervisors. For those of you returning, thank you for your continued public service. For those of you who are newly elected, welcome to the world of public service. And as I share with many frequently, public service, in my opinion, is the embodiment of our democracy. So thank you for your willingness to serve the people of St. Croix County. And likewise, I shared with Mr. Thompson last week that the courts in St. Croix enjoy a very healthy and positive and long relationship with the county board. And as presiding judge, I look forward to working with all of you to accomplish our mutual goals of justice as well as government in the county. At this time, then, I'm going to have the members here in person stand and the members appearing remotely raise their right hand, and I believe you received a copy of the oath. The only thing I want you to be aware of is I'm going to ask you to repeat after me, but my first line is I state your name. Your first line will be I, and you state your name. With that said, raise your right hands, please. I state your name.
I believe.
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
of the office of County Board Supervisor
of the office of County Board Supervisor
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you. And now, point in our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Supervisor Phoebe, second by Peterson. Is there any debate? Point in our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Cindy, do you want to, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Was there a question? Okay. All right, now is the time for the election of officers. Is there any nominations for chair? Supervisor Hanson.
I'd like to nominate David Peterson for chair.
Election of officers. Are there any other nominations for chair? Supervisor Hanson. If not, I think it would be in order for someone to move that the nominations are closed and the board casts unanimous ballot for Supervisor Peterson.
I move to close nominations.
Who's? Oh, Kathy Leaf.
Sorry.
Second by Supervisor Hanson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Congratulations, Supervisor Peterson. And now you can take the roll. All those opposed? Supervisor Peterson. Where do we want him? Do we want?
Oh, yeah, that might work.
That'd
be easiest.
Okay.
Try using your microphone also, Dave, from there. Try using your microphone from there. We'll see if we can-
Testing. I'll sit back from it. Okay. Use this, Dan, if I get online with you. Just let me say thank you. This is overwhelming, this support. And I'll do the best I can. Thank you. Okay. Use this, Dan, if I get online. The next order of business then would be to elect a vice chair. And I'll open nominations at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Supervisor Osnes.
Okay, we have a nomination for Supervisor Osnes.
Mr. Chair, I would respectfully decline the nomination.
Vice Chair. Okay, Supervisor Osnes does decline chair.
And would in the same time nominate Bill Peavy as our vice chair.
Okay, we have a nomination, Bill Peavy, for vice chair. Any other nominations for vice chair? Okay. Supervisor Osnes does decline chair. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, we have a nomination. Third call, any nominations for vice chair? Any other nominations for vice chair? At this time, I will close nominations for vice chair. And I guess then with only one nominee, I would entertain a motion to approve unanimously Mr. Peavy for vice chair.
I'll move unanimous consent.
We need a second on that. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Who was the second from? Thank you, Bob.
At this time, then, If there's no discussion, which we'll vote at this time, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
And opposed? Carries unanimously. Congratulations, Vice Chair Peavy.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. And Dave and I will work great together, so thank you.
Vote at this time, all those in favor signify. Okay,
I can't hear you.
how's this, better?
Greg, can't hear?
Greg, can you hear now?
It's difficult hearing the boardroom.
He's having trouble hearing the boardroom. Can we raise that a bit there? Don't be afraid to ask for a repeat, Greg. I'll talk as loud as I can, and
I don't know what just said. Was it just said? This is some mumbling.
Yeah, is anyone else having a sound
is it any
issue?
better if I turn off the mic?
I can hear just fine.
Greg, you still?
I can hear you good now.
Okay, yeah, I turned my mic off. Maybe that's helping.
Yes, that helps.
How's it now?
Yep.
Everybody else seems to be
Greg, you're okay yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So then we will, next item on the agenda then would be the financial, financial reports. Pat, is it?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packets, you have the financial report, which reflects expenditures and revenues for each of the 5 standing committees and those departments within those standing committees. This reflects financial expenditures and revenues through the end of March. So it's the first 3 months of the year. These reports come out on a monthly basis, and they'll be in your county board packet. And then once we populate the standing committees, your committee meetings on a monthly basis will have financial reports, expenditures and revenues for each of the departments within that standing committee. The monthly reports for the county board are on a little higher level. It shows the 5 standing committees and those departments within those standing committees. We track expenditures and revenues very closely in the administration and in the finance department. So we look for any irregularities, any expenditures that are out of line or out of sync with the budget, or any revenues that are either short, or if we're seeing any irregularities whatsoever in revenues. We're in very uncharted waters when it comes to this year's budget. I will alert the board to this fact right now, that we're tracking expenditures and revenues very closely because of the additional expenditures that are being made and the lag in revenues, which we anticipate. A lot of that will not show up in this monthly report. It will start showing up mid-year and throughout the year. So we're tracking it. We're working very closely with the state of Wisconsin, who in turn is working with the federal government to determine if there will be additional revenues allocated to state and local state and local governments through either state or federal stimulus dollars. And so we will be monitoring this very closely and reporting to the administration committee the financial status. If we need to make budget modifications throughout the course of the year, we will certainly alert the board and the finance and the administration committee to any budget adjustments that we would possibly need to make. But at this point, it's too soon to say what those might look like. We also include On the last page of the financial report, we include a listing of all the capital improvement projects that are in the CIP. We refer to our capital improvement budget as the CIP. These are projects that have been authorized and approved by the board, and funding allocated through the use of fund balance, and for certain large projects, bonding for capital improvement projects. And so we monitor these projects and we report on them monthly to the board. Are there any questions at this point? If not, that is it for the financial report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. And next item then would be the report on the emergency actions.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The County Board of Supervisors in March of this year passed a resolution declaring a state of emergency in St. Croix County, authorizing the county administrator to take necessary action regarding the county's response to COVID-19. And the resolution requires the county administrator to report out on any actions taken through the authorization of that resolution. And in your packet, I've included a summary of action items taken thus far. It's spelled out in the report. I could go through it quickly if you want me to. Otherwise, I could just ask if there are any questions. There hasn't been a lot of action items taken. We've hired some additional public health nurses. We've extended the retirement date of the Health and Human Services Director by 2 months. We're still in the process of, Fred Johnson had notified me earlier this year of his intent to retire April 17th. And we had begun the process of filling that position. We had recruited and started interviewing for that position. And then we got caught up in the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I put that on hold and talked with Fred Johnson. He agreed to extend his retirement by 2 months. And so that will give us some additional time to complete that recruitment process for his position, but yet still retain his leadership in that department during this pandemic response. Then in turn, Fred Johnson, the director, extended by mutual agreement the retirement for the deputy director, Steve Kurt. So I believe Steve's retirement also got extended for 2 months. So great appreciation for both Fred and Steve to agree to that extension, and the work and the leadership they're providing for that department is invaluable. It would have been a tough transition for anyone coming in during this period to take over that department. So anyway, we will restart that recruitment very soon, and hopefully at our next month's board meeting, I'll have a recommendation to the board for the director's position. We placed all non-essential staff on paid admin leave. Most of the government center employees and the service center are working remotely, except for those essential services. We will work closely with the state of Wisconsin and the governor's order regarding the state return to work, or I believe it's referred to now as the Badger Bounce. So we will be looking at what the state is requiring, and then I'm going to be meeting with department heads later today, and we will begin a transition plan, working on a transition plan for employees to start to return back to work very shortly, hopefully. And but we're going to have to work very closely with the state and make sure that we're meeting or matching the criteria that the state has outlined for reopening services. We have restricted public access to the government center between the hours of 8 and noon daily. The courts are on a modified work schedule. Earlier this week, the presiding judge issued a new order that they will be resuming normal scheduling for courts beginning May 1st. So the courts will be back at full scheduling beginning May 1st. The health center campus remains closed to visitors. The service center remains closed. Essential staff reports to work. There is some work being done in terms of appointment only. In the government center, we are on a modified work schedule, but taking appointments for service. We've authorized department heads to purchase certain items to combat the pandemic. The finance department has established a separate tracking code for those purchases. So we would monitor those and in the hopes that some state or federal reimbursement may be applied to those expenses. I've made temporary modification to the county board rules and bylaws to allow for this remote meeting to take place. Our current bylaws do not allow for remote attendance at meetings, but given the circumstances we face regarding social distancing and numbers of groups in terms of attendance for meetings, we thought it prudent to establish this meeting by remote attendance, and I'm not certain if our May meeting will be very similar, but it could be. But for this meeting, I've recommended we amend our bylaws to allow for remote attendance. I've also made a modification, a one-time modification to the bylaws to allow for the county board chair to populate the standing committees. This is typically done by election process by the board. It's a long-standing tradition in St. Croix County. We're one of the very few counties in the state that populate their committees by election of the members. I'm recommending, given the nature of how that would have to occur, meeting remotely. It's a cumbersome process even in normal times, and I can't imagine how that would occur meeting remotely. So I've recommended a one-time suspension of that rule to allow for the board chair to populate those standing committees. And then lastly, have made a temporary modification to our bylaws to remove the public comment section of our agenda to keep the public. We do have seating capacity set up in one of the side conference rooms this morning. If there were members of the public that wanted to attend, they would be able to attend, but there would be no means for public comment at this point. And that's the list of the actions taken, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. If there are any questions.
Yeah, I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead, Judy.
How many cases of the virus are there in St. Croix County now? And second part of it is, are there any nursing homes in St. Croix County?
We have 11 confirmed cases as of yesterday. I haven't heard this morning if that has changed, but we had 11 confirmed cases yesterday. I have heard of no COVID cases in any of our county, any nursing homes in our county. I've heard rumblings of a case. I can't confirm that in River Falls in a non-St. Croix County nursing home facility. I don't know if that's true. I will check with our public health officer, but we do not have any COVID cases in any of our St. Croix County nursing homes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Scott.
Is this, you were talking about the public not being able, I'm sorry, the exact words that you use, but they're going for public comment. Thank you. Yeah. Is that a temporary until this is taken care of, and then in future,
Yes.
is this a permanent?
No, this is very temporary.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question, please?
The question, Judy, was the removal of public comment from the agenda. Is this a temporary recommendation or permanent? And the answer to the question is it's a temporary suspension of that rule until we can reconvene as we normally do as a body, rather than attending remotely like we are. Yes, Paul?
So I have a couple of follow-up questions to that. One is, do we as a board have to figure out the plan to get public comment back in here, or is it something the staffing is going to do? And then also in regards to follow up to Supervisor Achterhoff's questions, the 11 active cases, is that active? Are those over what time period? How many have recovered that we know of? And yeah, those are the questions I have.
Those are 11 confirmed cases. I don't have the other data in front of me, but we can provide that to the board from the public health officer. And then the second part to your question, that will be done, that will occur. The board doesn't have to take any further action to make sure that remains part of our agenda. It will. This is just a temporary suspension for this meeting. Yeah.
Just for clarification, for our new members who weren't here for the last meeting, we gave the administrator extraordinary powers with this resolution 15, and he's made some decisions that are outlined here for the expediency of dealing with the pandemic. And I might add that he's done an incredibly good job, in my opinion, of course. And those things will come back online when we make a resolution that ends, and if I understand how this works, that terminates resolution 15 and ends his extraordinary powers. Is that correct, Patrick, the way you understand it?
Yes, this resolution, I'm just looking at it. I thought we put a
6 months.
6 month
automatic.
Or ended by resolution.
Right.
Extending or ending.
Yeah. Yes.
Forgive me if this is a dumb question, but so for public comment, is there any provision or thought given going forward if this is going to extend more than a couple of meetings, if there's a way to incorporate either an online chat or some sort of written questioning that we could respond to?
I think it's an excellent suggestion, and I think that the Zoom platform, I think it allows for, if members of the public, are members of the public allowed to attend remotely, Ken?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that.
No?
I would recommend keeping the attendance just to
the board?
To the elected officials or the staff.
So if we have, do we have any members of the public here?
We had no members of the public show up today, no.
Okay. But we will check into that. I think it's a good suggestion. I think if this goes on for any longer than maybe 1 or 2 meetings, I think we need to entertain some sort of provision for the public to at least ask questions or make comment.
Just a point there, Pat, in public comment, we are not allowed to reply to the public on that. So, yeah, we could maybe take slips and have it read by somebody, but there would be no response to it. There is not.
I don't know what was just said. Dave, could you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, in public comment, there is no response. We do not respond to public comment. In other words, we just take the input from the public, but we do not respond to it at that time.
Well, couldn't we just accept a written public comment as in lieu of that?
Yes, we could do that. That would be a possibility, yes.
That's it for my report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions?
Yes. I'm not comfortable with giving total rights to the chairman for appointment if we've done it differently before. Can we do something like a motion? I'd like to make a motion to amend it to subject to approval of the majority of the board. And then we could do this by committee, but I'd like to see the board vote on approval.
You mean on the change?
For the committee appointments.
So you want the board to vote on what the administrator has done?
Right.
Okay.
Supervisor Hanson.
So I had a conversation about that last night. It's kind of either one or the other. Either way we do it the way it's in the bylaws, which is going to be technically very difficult, or we have faith in the gentleman that we just elected as the chair to appoint committees, which is the way it's done in almost every other county. I don't know of an exception. And I'll tell you this, that Dave Peterson's been on the county board for 5 terms, that he's a decent and honest person who's always been very even keel, and there's a lot of reasons to trust him. I would, with respect, disagree with wanting to modify this, because the only outcome that I see to allowing the chairman to assign committees is to returning to the bylaws and electing the committees according to the bylaws, because otherwise we're inventing a new system, and that will be chaos. So I would suggest we stay with the idea of allowing the chairman to appoint the committees.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and that's a possibility, I guess. I just thought maybe it'd be kind of half step or hybrid way of approving what is appointed. I'm not questioning, per se, Dave's judgment, and I trust he will do good work. But I just thought it might be a way to. But it's it's what the rest of the board would like to do too.
I think hopefully everybody filled out the form, and Dave will have the information. And if we went and changed it and literally it took hours to get it done. And I think that for one term, I think this is the best thing for the county in the situation that we are in.
I think it would be literally impossible to do part of this online. It's cumbersome enough to do it in person. So I think given the unusual circumstance, I really believe that this is the right approach. So I would totally endorse this methodology at this point.
Mr. Chairman, I might make a suggestion that a motion would be in order to incorporate all the recommendations of the report that I just went through on action items taken, And so then if there is a feeling amongst any of the members that you would prefer not to accept any of the recommendations, including the recommendation that the board chair make the appointments for this one term, that could be, that can be pulled out. But if I think a motion would be in order to adopt the report and then vote on that, and then you will see whether or not the board supports the recommendation to suspend the bylaws.
I think Tim was.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the recommendations as written and proceed from there.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the administrator's recommendations as presented. And at this time, discussion.
Scott. Mr. Chair, because I think this operates as a suspension of the rules, I would suggest that rather than a voice vote, that we do a roll call vote of each individual member.
Okay, well, if there's no discussion, we will then do a roll call vote of the motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none at this time, Cindy, would you take roll call, please?
Ed Schockner?
Yes.
Sean Anderson?
Yes.
Bob Long?
Yes.
Kathy Leaf?
Yes.
Kara Cook?
Yes.
Tim Hall?
Yes.
Paul Burning?
Yes.
Rico Tino?
Yes.
Bob Fiedler?
Yes.
Dave Osnes?
Yes.
Scott Counter?
Yes.
Dan Hansen?
Yes.
Scotty Ard?
Yes.
Greg Telejohn?
Yes.
Dave Peterson?
Yes.
Paulette Anderson?
Yes.
Judy Achterhoff?
Yes.
Shelley Tomschick?
Yes.
And Bill Peavy?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That's it, Pat, on that portion.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda then will be appointments to the Health and Human Services Committee. County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Health and Human Services Board, by state statute, members are appointed by the county administrator. It's a 9-member board. It's made up of 6 county board supervisors and 3 citizen members. They serve 3-year overlapping terms. So the following board members I'm recommending, and this needs to be approved by the board, recommending the appointment of the following county board supervisors to the Health and Human Services Board. Supervisor Osnes, Supervisor Anderson, Supervisor Ard, Supervisor Leaf, Supervisor Telejohn, and Supervisor Cook. And I can get those, these are for different terms. So Osnes will serve through 2021. Kathy Leaf will serve through 2021. Greg Telejohn will serve through 2022. Cook, 2022. Anderson, 2023. Ard, 2023. And as those terms expire, then those reappointments will come up. I'll ask the supervisor, county board supervisor, if they want to be reappointed. In most cases, those reappointments then would come to the board for approval. And then we have 1 citizen member seat which has expired, and I'm recommending the reappointment of Natasha Ward, and that will be a 3-year term. She'll serve through 2023.
Okay, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the administrator appointments as presented. Okay, Dave Osnes on the motion, and the second by Supervisor Hansen. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote at this time. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Carries unanimous. Thank you. Okay, county administrator appointments and the Council of Aging and Disabilities.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a council made up of citizen members. Brad Beckman, the supervisor for the Council on Aging and Disabilities, has recommended to me, and I in turn are recommending to the board the appointment of Nancy Meyer, Lois Burry, Nancy Abel, and Roxanne Joaquin to the Council on Aging and Disabilities.
Okay, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the appointments to the Council on Aging and Disability.
I would move to approve the appointments for aging and disability.
We have a motion by Supervisor Ard. Second by Supervisor Tim. Discussion.
We want to make sure that we have the 3 county board supervisors as well reappointed to the commission. I did not get those names from Brad, but who are they, Dave?
You had to replace Paulette, and you had to replace Tammy. And then Bob was the third one. And I know I talked to Brad about it, and he said he talked to you, but I don't know who the third person would be.
Okay. Well, so we have Bob Fiedler and Paulette Anderson.
She can't be on there for much. She served her term.
Okay. All right. What I'm going to do then is reappoint Bob Fiedler. So if the board could confirm that, and then at our May meeting, I will have the 2 additional supervisors who I will reappoint or appoint. So in addition to the names I gave you, Mr. Chairman, also Supervisor Fiedler.
I would amend the motion to include Supervisor Fiedler.
You're okay. Okay, the motion is amended then to include 2 supervisors at a later time. Any further discussion? Seeing none, at this time we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. And we addressed the election of standing committees, and at this time I'll just advise everybody that we'll probably be meeting later today, and so watch your emails. I'm going to try and have assignments out by the end of the week at the latest, because I think we need to be about the county's business. Our voters have elected us to do a job, and we need to get to work. So thank you on that. Supervisor Hanson.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Administrator, this opens the question of how, once the committee assignments are made, how do we begin to organize the committees? How will we meet? And how will we get on with the business of the committees?
Well, when the chairman makes the appointments to the committees, he will appoint a meeting convener, and that person will call the meeting, and at the meeting, the agenda will be set that at the first order of business will be to appoint or elect a chair and vice chair of the committee. We'll probably follow the same schedule of meetings, the same time and date and schedule, unless the Chair Peterson has other thoughts on that. But the second item of business for the committee at their first meeting then will be to determine a meeting schedule going forward. So you're not wed to the maintaining the same time and schedule that the committees have historically met. It's up to the committee to determine when you meet. So.
Supervisor Hanson, go ahead.
I was just wondering if we're going to be Zooming it, or will we be coming into using the facilities here?
I would say to be determined.
So the committees are small enough that we probably could socially distance all the committees here if the convener wants to do it. If they want to do it by Zoom, just have the convener contact me and I will set them up on a Zoom meeting.
Okay, everybody copied that okay? And I agree with Pat that on the initial meeting, the scheduled time is probably prudent because of the boardroom is sometimes used for other items. So not to say there are other rooms, but you can go ahead and schedule your meetings whenever you wish after that time. So, further questions? Okay, the next item then on business would be the resolution amending the 2020 budget. Patrick, would you cover that for the members, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This issue came up at the meeting of the county board at our last meeting, but we have new members now on the board, so I'll give a little background. This is a resolution which will amend the 2020 budget by doing two things. One is realigning some funds and revenues within the CJCC and Circuit Court budget. It has net zero impact financially for the county. It's realigning certain cost centers within the Circuit Court budget and the Community Justice Coordinating Council budget. As Finance Director has recommended this realignment. We've discussed it with the courts and with CJCC, and we believe it is a better reflection of expenditures and revenues within those two cost centers. The second portion of the resolution will authorize an additional position in the county administration of a communications specialist public information officer. A little background on this: the county for the past several years has been working on a communications strategy, developing policies for internal and external communications. In other words, how we communicate internally as an organization, and then how do we communicate externally to the public, utilizing the many forums of social media, website design. We've been doing this piecemeal, I would say, ad hoc, it would be another way of saying it, using existing staff, pulling from certain positions within the organization to try to fashion a good communications strategy. In the back of my mind, I knew, and in addition to that, you can throw in what we refer to as branding. It's what is St. Croix County's brand. So we've been working on that for the past several years with a committee of staff, volunteering basically to work on this issue for county administration. In the back of my mind, I knew eventually I didn't know it would be this soon, but I knew eventually I would be recommending to this board that we employ a communications professional, a communications officer that can deal with both internal and external communications for the organization and kind of spearhead that whole effort and have some accountability, have some responsibility and authority to communicate our message as an organization. Then we got hit with COVID-19, and it really brought to light the fact that sometimes we as an organization we muddle sometimes our messaging, and that's no poor reflection on St. Croix County as an organization. I think we're doing tremendous work, but sometimes it gets lost in the message sometimes, how we communicate to our staff, to our organization internally, and then also to the public with the use of social media, Facebook, you name it. And so this brought it to light. I talked with the board, the prior board, last month, and there was general support at the time to bring forward a resolution to the board to amend the budget to allow for this position to be created. How are we going to pay for it? Well, the administrative departments had surplus in last year's budget, and so I'm recommending that the surplus from those departments within the administration will be utilized to help fund the position going forward. I think it will be a position that the entire organization can benefit from, not just the county administration. I think this function will serve the law enforcement, it will serve Health and Human Services, administration, it will even help serve the County Board of Supervisors in terms of our message as a board. When we go through our strategic planning process later this spring, that has been delayed now because of COVID, but a big part of our strategic planning process is how do we communicate with the public to determine that your goals and objectives are exactly what the community wants. And so that communications function becomes an important part of our strategic planning going forward. So I hope you support this recommendation, this budget amendment, and I can answer any questions you might have.
I have one.
Yeah, I have a question regarding salary, cost, and benefits of this particular addition. Also, in a time where there's 22 million people being furloughed right now, why do we need to add this at this time? And can we wait until we weather this storm? I understand the reasoning for communicating to the public on certain things, but I think so far the departments in St. Croix County have done a pretty good job of being an issue that came up about a week and a half ago. But is there any way that we can push this off in order to accommodate the public and the hundreds of thousands of people that are being laid off at this time right now in the state?
Yep. Go ahead, Dan.
I'll give you a practical example. When early on, as the governor was issuing his order and the various municipalities were scrambling, and I knew that the county was doing a great job calling back retired public health nurses. I knew things were going well here, but my constituents, the mayor of New Richmond, called me, and I'm not going to exaggerate, I'm going to tell you in a near panic, what is the county doing? We can't get an answer. We have no idea. And the superintendent of schools was saying the same message. We didn't have the means to communicate because they're busy doing operations, which statutorily is the job of the administrator. It's been evident for years, as I've been observing this government for 6 years, that they need a better communication system. In the case of a public emergency, and this is a public emergency, I've always thought it would be a tragedy to not be able to communicate effectively. Well, here we are, and there you go. And so I had to come in and try to explain to the administrative staff, we need to do a better job communicating, and they're all like octopuses trying to put out fires, and didn't have somebody to talk to people like the mayor of New Richmond and the superintendent of schools in New Richmond and the various other municipal leaders. What is our role? What is your role? What is the state's role? And coordinate and make everybody feel calm and peaceful. Those are critical and really fundamental things to do in a crisis, and there are many other things that person can and will be doing. Also, because this is not going to impact the budget, this is something that's going to be taking funds that are already budgeted and shifting them to this role. It's not like we're going to be putting it on the levy. I'm going to support it. So there's a practical example.
I also,
Yeah, go ahead.
when I first ran for election, and I represent 6 districts, I think it was 4 or 5 out of the 6 all made the comment, please make sure that the county remembers that there is an east side to the county. And I bring that up a lot. I'm sure a lot of people are sick of hearing it, but it really hasn't changed too much. And that's why a communication person is vital, so that everybody in the county hears the same information. I mean, the Hudson paper is the main paper. We don't get it out here. We need someone who will ensure, or at least do a better job of ensuring, that communication is spread throughout the county and not just to the most populated areas of the county. I think this is an important position.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Supervisor Toljan.
According to what you just said, are you budgeting $65,000 for a half a year for this position? I agree we need the position. Don't get me wrong, but $65,000 for a half a year seems a lot.
No, this is for the funds that you see. That's for the full year.
Well, you didn't say that.
Greg,
You said a half a year.
no, it's for the full year.
For the rest of this year.
For the for the rest of this year.
Right.
Yes.
You're saying for the rest of this year, and you're showing you got 5, 10, 20, 20, and $10,000. You add that up, that's $65,000 for a half a year. How much are you paying this person is my question.
The position will pay approximately, I believe the salary range is 65 to 85. That's the salary range that has been established by the Human Resources Department.
Okay, that's different than what you were proposing, so.
Ken, do you want to address the numbers?
I'm the man behind the camera. So the $65,000 cost is the rest of the cost for this year, and it includes salary and benefits. So you have to remember, we budget, when we don't know who we're hiring, we budget for a family health insurance plan, which is $20,000 a year. Then you add on Social Security, Wisconsin retirement, life insurance, disability insurance, workman's compensation. So when you add all of those costs up, that's how we get to that $65,000 you see. Probably only about 2/3 of that are wage costs, and the rest are benefit costs.
Right, but that's for a half a year or for a year?
That's for half a year. It's for the rest of this year is what it's budgeted.
So you're going to say it's going to be 130,000?
Yeah, not quite 130, but I would probably say 115 to 120 is an annual cost for this position is what I would estimate.
God, I should apply for that.
Supervisor Burning.
I'd like to have an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Oh.
Yep. Supervisor Artino, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Number one, I want to say with millions and millions of people out of work in this country, putting on another person like this with that kind of salary sends the wrong message. We need to also hold off on hiring anybody who is non-essential right now. Again, I'm totally against this and will not support it. Thank you.
Supervisor Burning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the other thing is, I just wanted to point out, like, did we explore doing, working with a communications firm for right now, just to see how that could work? That way we're not committing to a person's career and then down the road going, well, wait a minute, we're way overpaying for this, or we're not getting quite the services, or we're having to find things for them to do. I'm not saying they couldn't have a full-time position eventually, but working with some sort of PR firm or communications firm to help shore up what we have right now in a transition to this down the road. Well, I mean, that's the big thing, is just easing into this a little bit more so than, $100-some thousand a year in salary, and in backing what Supervisor Otino said, it does send the wrong message to our constituents.
Further comment?
I'm going to make one more comment if I can.
Go ahead.
That the wages that we are paying this person are, if we go lower, we're not going to get the person. So you have to look at what the person's doing, not necessarily just the cost. Because we have a big problem with that in St. Croix County for you new board members, is that because we're right across the border, we have to meet, to a large extent, Twin Cities fees. Otherwise, we're not going to get a qualified person. So it may seem high, but you've got to also look at what they do and what we need.
I'd like to interject if I can, please. Thank you, Judy.
Supervisor Long, go ahead.
I agree with you, and I agree with the need for this position. I think it is important. Communication is vital to make sure we're communicating with our citizens, but I'm a little uncomfortable with the timing. I think we're already past the point of having needed good communication on this issue. And I'm just concerned about the timing, and I don't see any reason why we can't at least put it off. If we have dire needs, look at some of the alternatives. I think it should be staffed at some point, but I don't think now is really the right time.
Supervisor Hanson?
Well, funds for this are coming out of the county budget. Regarding the millions and millions of people who are out of work, their programs are coming from the federal government, the state government. The county's not paying back anything. We're not putting those funds on the county levy. The feds are printing money right now to cover whatever needs they seem to see fit. We're just talking about a small amount of money for a really critical need within the county. We have a crisis that could get worse. It could blow up. I think it's naive to think that this is over. It hasn't hit here, which means we don't have immunity. And relaxing and thinking that we're going to be okay is really very naive. We could have a crisis. We could have, and God forbid we have something else, a massive tornado, a school shooting, or something on top of it. I think having an excellent communicator, somebody who can help us coordinate our message, not just to have a message going out, but message within the county departments. What Mr. Thompson is talking about is a professionally responsible thing to do, and we should let the administrator do operations and go ahead and give him what he's asking for. With that, I would like to get on with the business of the day and approve this expenditure.
Supervisor.
Oh, sorry. I have a follow-up. So did we investigate to Paul?
Yeah, I was going to address that question. I have not looked at what it would cost to engage a public relations firm. All I know is that with the amount of work that this position is going to be involved with, it's more than a 40-hour a week job, and I don't know what public relations firms would cost to engage someone for the amount of work that is going to be required of this position. I can certainly check into that, but I think, well, I will, just so I know for myself, but I know that the amount of work that, it's 40 hours a week, and I don't know what public relations firms charge, but I can speak
a little bit to that because I own one with my husband. Okay. This is the amount of salary. You would not be able to get a public relations firm to engage them for the amount of work that you have for that cost.
Thank you, Kathy. I didn't know that that was your background, but thank you.
Any motions?
Go ahead.
I think we should, I'm going to put a motion out there to move this to the next meeting to discuss, so we can get more clarity coming into this.
No, we don't have a main motion. Do we need the main motion first?
Yeah, we should have.
Okay, let's backtrack just shortly. We'll
Yeah,
get to
sorry.
you in just a moment. Okay, so Chair would entertain a motion to approve the.
I move that we approve the resolution as presented.
What was the motion?
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Hanson, a second by Supervisor Ard to approve the motion. We're now open for discussion and or amendment.
I can't, I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't either.
So there was an original motion for the approval of the budget amendment, moved by Supervisor Hanson, seconded by Supervisor Ard. And then I believe Supervisor Burning is going to make a motion to amend that or to table it.
So what's the motion?
The motion is to approve the resolution for the budget amendment.
So we are now opening for discussion, and at this time, then an amendment can be approved, and so I will recognize Supervisor Burning at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to table this to next, or to move this to the next supervisor meeting.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to delay this till the next supervisory meeting, and the motion was by Supervisor Burning, and the second was by Supervisor Attino. Supervisor.
I guess my question is, if we're going to move to the next meeting, what's the reason to move it to the next meeting, and what information do we need?
That's me. Just to get more time in to look into this, and I haven't even looked into this issue. So this is $100 and some thousand a year that we're going to commit to somebody's career, not knowing what the fallout of COVID-19 is going to be, what that's going to do to our levy, how many businesses are going to go out of business, how many buildings are going to get foreclosed on when this is all said and done. And that impacts our ability to collect revenue at the end of the day. And what'd you say, $115,000 if it was 12 months, give or take. I mean, I'm sorry, Supervisor Hanser, I completely disagree with you that this is not a lot of money. $100,000 a year is a lot of money. And so I would like to look into this more. And I think 1 month, give or take a few days, is well worth it when we're looking at committing to somebody's career at $100,000 plus a year.
Who just spoke?
Supervisor Burning.
Did he not hear me? Was that great?
He was just asking who was speaking, I think.
Yeah, we can't see who's speaking, so.
Wave your hand.
That was Supervisor Burning up front.
Well, we can't see the name tags either, so.
Okay.
Okay, so Supervisor Hanson.
I'll speak to tabling it. I understand the sentiment of wanting to take a look at it harder. I remember my very first meeting wanting to table a piece of business that seemed like it was in a rush to me as well, and it was worth a little bit more, quite a bit more than $100,000. $100,000 seems like a lot of money, but when you consider the value of getting information out to municipalities, if this COVID turns into a much, much bigger thing here, and we start having hundreds of people dying, and our municipalities need people to give clear information to them, and our employees need people to give them clear instructions, and the administrator needs a strong aid in making those communications. That's the one weak link in his administration is the department. He's just admitted that in a very adept way, and he's covered the budget. He's arranged and rearranged his budget and demonstrated to us where that hole will be filled in his immediate budget. So that I'm satisfied with that. In delaying it right now, what we're doing is exposing ourselves. If we don't give him the flexibility to do operations, and again, I remind you, statutorily, it's his operations is his job. Our job is policy. giving him the flexibility to do his job, rather than put in place a no. So I think delaying this is probably not wise, just not wise. This is something that he's been talking about wanting to do for a long time, at least 5 years was the first time that I remember hearing him talking about a position. And it's not a sudden jump. And a leap of faith here would be called for. Kathy, can I ask Kathy a leap question? Would you indulge me that?
To the chair, and Kathy can listen in and acknowledge.
Kathy, if you had a sudden emergency and you were called upon as a consultant, could you put together a public relations program to respond to, say, a tragic tornado that wiped out half of Hudson? Could you get the county organized to do a public relations announcement within, say, 15, 20 minutes and be on TV if you were called upon to do that?
Not in 15 or 20 minutes. I'm good, but not that good. I would maybe need an hour.
Supervisor Hall.
So just a quick follow-up to County Administrator Thompson. I assume that this is not an irrevocable choice, so if we approve the position, is there a candidate in mind at this time? If not, there's some acquisition time to get the staff help. And during that time, you would have an opportunity to look at how the trend is going with the COVID crisis, with other things. So I'm assuming as a county administrator, you're watching all of those things and would be able to put a halt to the acquisition of a staff member if we later determined that we had to.
Well, not quite sure on your question. Any action that the board takes can be undone. I mean, yes. So I think, but once you have a communications specialist or a public information officer hired, that would be, that.
One of our cases is before we hire, we could always decide not to hire, right? Once the person's on their own. Right. But I would assume that there is some time lag to be able to acquire the talent, bring them on board. And if during that process, before we offered the job, we decided we needed to vacate the position, we could.
Correct.
Okay, has anybody that has not spoken on this issue wish to speak at this time? If not, okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Supervisor Ag.
Supervisors, I'm going to state this, having been a long time in events, working in a number of different public arenas, and having been a professional journalist with Wisconsin Public Radio, what I'm going to say to you is having a consistent message is imperative to the success of any message. Currently, we have department heads who are trying to craft messages. We do not have a continuous brand, nor a continuous message. A communications officer, whether at this point, COVID eventually will end. A communications officer will continue. Enabling departments to come to one point of contact to craft a message which is consistent with the brand that has been developed by St. Croix County is imperative to the county. As the fastest growing county in the state of Wisconsin, we do not have a consistent message. Oftentimes we are off brand. We need a representative voice that each department can use as a point of contact, as a point of consistency within the messaging that comes from the county, from this boardroom, and from all departments representative of the county. This is why I urge you at this time to consider this position and approve it. We need to have that consistent voice. Yes, during COVID, but going forward, that person who is crafting our message is crafting the voice that the persons we represent will hear. And it must be consistent, and it must be on brand and on topic. So I would urge you to approve the motion.
Can I speak one more time?
Who's
Greg.
Supervisor Telejohn? Go ahead.
I'm in favor of the position. What bothers me is nobody knew what the cost was yet. And if you're proposing something, I'd like to know in front what we're agreeing on for cost. I'm going to vote in favor of it, but that's what bothers me is nobody had their ducks in a row yet when they present this.
I have a question.
Did
Supervisor Anderson, I believe, has a question.
Supervisor Anderson?
How long does the hiring process take for a position like this? What was the question?
How long does the hiring process take?
It depends. You know, it could take a month. I've already talked with some individuals that have expressed interest in the position, so I'm ready to move on this. Once the board gives the green light, I'm not going to waste time on filling this position. So I know what the market is for a position like this. I've talked with some people, and I'm not going to waste time if the board gives me the green light.
Okay, we have a motion, first of all, to delay, and at that, whether it goes up or down, then will depend on the vote on the other one. So, is there anybody else who has not commented yet on this that would like to speak? Seeing none, so we will vote on the motion to
Mr.
amend.
Chair,
Go ahead.
I had to step out because of an issue to deal with, but I understand that there's not a vote or there's not a motion on the main motion.
There is.
Yes, we did. We backtracked, and there is a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay, thank you. Okay, at this time then, we will vote on the motion to delay. If you vote in favor of it, we will delay this. If you vote against it, then we will go to the main motion. Everybody clear on that, I guess? Okay.
Can we do a voice vote? Because it's very hard to do it like this.
Roll call.
Roll call
Just
vote,
all
is
vote
that
at
what
the
you're?
same time. Yeah, roll call.
We'll do a roll call vote, that way everybody's on record at that time. Go ahead, Cindy.
Yep.
Schockner,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bob Long,
No.
Kathy Leaf,
No.
Kara Cook,
No.
Tim Hall,
No.
Paul Burning,
Yes.
Rick Otino,
Yes.
Bob Fiedler,
No.
Dave Osnes, Scott Counter, Dan Hansen,
No.
Scotty Ard,
No.
Greg Telejohn,
No.
David Peterson,
No.
Paulette Anderson, Judy Achterhoff,
No.
Shelley Tomschick, Bill Peavy.
No.
3 yeses. 16.
Okay, the motion fails. At this time, we will now vote on the main motion to approve the amendment to the budget. And we will also take a roll call vote on that. Go ahead, Cindy.
Motion to approve. Ed Schockner,
Yes.
Sean Anderson,
No.
Bob Long,
Yes.
Kathy Leaf,
Yes.
Kara Cook,
Yes.
Tim Hall,
Yes.
Paul Burning,
No.
Rick Otino,
No.
Bob Fiedler,
Yes.
Dave Osnes,
Yes.
Scott Counter,
Yes.
Dan Hansen,
Yes.
Scotty Ard,
Yes.
Greg Telejohn,
Yes.
David Peterson,
Yes.
Paulette Anderson, Judy Achterhoff,
Yes.
Shelley Tomschick, Bill Peavy.
Yes.
16-3.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, at this time, then, request for future agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move on to the county clerk's report for correspondence and rezoning requests.
I have no correspondence or rezoning reports, just the WCA, Wisconsin Counties Association, sent packets out. I placed them in your mailbox. For those that are new, it's you have a mailbox assigned to you in the mailroom, but next to the county clerk's office, and you can pick those up. Any items we have will be placed in there. Okay, and that's it.
And any announcements?
Okay, my husband got his turkey today.
Things are well on the east side. Thank you. Okay, our next meeting, whether it be here or online or however we work it, would be May 5th. Am I correct on that, Patrick?
Yes, that's right.
Good. And that'll be a 5 p.m. meeting for the next meeting. On that, I will adjourn this meeting at 9:23. Thank you.